Well, thank you for joining me for this rather interesting look at my past, present, and future with Disney. Specifically, we're going to be having a look at the Disney films that I've got in my house, and these are on Blu-ray and DVD. I don't have any cassettes, VHS cassettes. I did have back in the day, back when that was the way you could watch things, and I have since I was a kid seen a couple of things on VHS, Disney films, and it brings back so much nostalgia. So much nostalgia. So, I've got my tea, and I think this is Yorkshire tea, for interest, for reference. What I'm going to be doing is going through the Disney collection I have in order that the films were released. But a disclaimer, I'm not going to be including the live action films, or the Pixar films, or the Muppets films, or Pirates of the Caribbean, or Star Wars. I'm really just sticking with the films that I have in my possession that are primarily the animated ones, and I guess this is kind of a nostalgia trip for me, and to perhaps give away my age, which some of you would have worked out. So the first film we have is Fantasia. Some people say Fantasia. This is 1940. And I think this was a pretty groundbreaking film. It hadn't been many years since films were made up of sound and visuals synchronized, and I think I had this on VHS as a kid, and my brother and I used to watch it a lot. It's not without its controversial moments. I think they've had a few things removed in recent editions, so this is the special edition on Blu-ray. And it's got such a great variety of pieces, classical pieces in it, and I guess for some people, like for some kids, it's their first sort of experience of classical music, and one could argue that it makes it slightly more approachable than it tends to be stereotypically. And certainly there are some pieces that I would associate with Fantasia, specifically the Beethoven that's in this, the Pastoral Symphony. Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, I just think of the dinosaurs, which was slightly terrifying as a child. Night on Bald Mountain, I think that's at the very end. That's quite creepy. Old Disney films were really creepy. Anyway, that's Fantasia. I do apologise if you can hear my laptop straining in the background. So the next one we have is Peter Pan. That's 1953. So we've skipped quite a few years. I don't have Disney Plus, and it's one of those monthly subscriptions I just can't really see myself needing to activate just this moment. But there are certainly lots of films that I've not seen in years, or just never seen, that I'd like to watch that are on Disney Plus. And I guess this kind of reminds us of the society we're now in terms of a lot of streaming material, as opposed to, I don't know what you'd call it, analog watching material such as DVDs and Blu-rays. In terms of where I've got DVDs instead of Blu-rays, it tends to be when I bought them in my life, when I was able to use a DVD player or Blu-ray player, because I'm a bit of a gamer as well, so I have a Blu-ray player in PlayStation over the years. Some of them are actually very good quality for DVD, so I can only imagine what the Blu-ray would be like. Anyway, I remember watching this for the first time when I was really young. We borrowed it from the library. My parents, well, they were very much the type of parent that would allow us to borrow lots of things from libraries. It's the case with cassette tapes and CDs in the past as well, and books. We would rent them. But I just love the music in this, the soundtrack. There's something about these 1950s Disney films and 60s ones, well, frankly, all the Disney films, but I love the nostalgic elements. I love the fact that there are these wonderful scores written and choral works and singing at the start with the opening credits. Absolutely love that. There's something really nostalgic about that, especially if you grew up with these films as a kid. Obviously, since this one, there have been quite a few other Peter Pan films, but this one has a special place in my heart. Then we have The Sword and the Stone on Blu-ray, and it comes in this sort of card case sheath. So it's got a slightly different cover when you unsheath it. So this is part of, I think, yeah, the classics, Disney Classics edition. So this is number 18. And I think I got this from HMV back when that was still a massively popular thing, and when you could just go out on the street and buy a Blu-ray. But those times seem to be behind us now. Again, I love the music in this. I love the score, the voice acting, everything, the animation. Though the animation is interesting because it's one of these ones that even I think Disney admit that they recycled animation. So you'll see a few elements, a few like recycled things in this one. It's not so much in this one, having said that, it's in other ones that I'll come to. But also in Robin Hood, which I don't have, sadly, but between Robin Hood and Snow White and the Aristocats, there's a lot of recycled animation and visual material, and there are, I think, lots of documentaries and behind the scenes features online that you can watch which explain why. But this is an interesting take on the King Arthur story, and also interestingly the guy who voiced Wart or Arthur actually was one of, I think, 4 young chaps who provided the voice, and there's a specific voice clip that repeats quite a lot when Arthur is in a bit of a situation, and it's, I won't demonstrate it properly because that will just destroy all the ASMR that I'm trying to produce, but it's along the lines of whoa, wait, whoa, whoa, wait, whoa, and I can hear it in my head, but if you know it, then you know it. It's when he falls over, rolls over, gets hit by something, finds himself in a bit of trouble. So, Sword and the Stone. While we're on tea drinking, this is a really, really fantastic mug that I've got 2 of these in our house. Now, my girlfriend and her family were kind enough to invite me to their family holiday, which was in Wales last year. And on one of the days we went to a pottery in the morning. They very kindly opened up for us to show us the workshop. And we ended up, my girlfriend and I, coming away with 2 of these spectacular mugs. And her parents very kindly bought us some housewarming presents in the form of these little bowls that are a similar style. So this pottery is called David Brown Pottery, and I'll put a link to the Instagram in my description for this video. But I'm absolutely in love with this mug. It's a really big mug. It might not look like it in the video, but it's spectacular. And it holds a lot, and you don't even have to have tea in here. You could have beer, wine, gin, vodka, you could have all sorts, you could even have water in it. So this is 1963. So Mary Poppins 1964. And this is the Blu-ray 50th anniversary edition. And this is a really, truly wonderful and magical film, as I'm sure you know. But it's one of these ones that I, and I'm sure many others, came back to as adults to sort of find different things hitting in different ways. When you're a kid, it's a really magical experience, and you get the songs stuck in your head and the wonders of Mary Poppins' magic and sassy ways. And then you come back to it and you sort of, I found myself in similar sort of positions. I mean, I won't go into the sort of positions, but it's an incredible film, and I think enhanced even more so by the fact that we now have these sort of, as the spin-off biopic, Saving Mr. Banks with Emma Thompson, Tom Hanks. Amazing film, which I do not have. I watched it on Netflix a couple of times and I cried a lot. I'm a crying man. I get quite emotional at any film. Put me in front of any film. I think the last Disney film my girlfriend and I saw was Coco, and it was on BBC iPlayer in the UK. And yeah, I knew I was going to cry, but I was trying to find a way to just completely clear my head and just try and think about other things, but no dice. Out the tears came. Anyway, Mary Poppins. I do have Mary Poppins Returns, but I'm not going to be counting that in this video, I don't think. I think I'll include it in the live action remakes, even though technically it's not a live action remake, but it sort of is. But it isn't. So Mary Poppins. The thing with this cup is you get so much liquid in it, it's like never ending, which is great. Aristocats, 1970. It's a special edition again. Quite a lot of special editions. I realised that when I'm tapping these, you could argue that they all sound exactly the same. But I'm going to tap them anyway. So again, a special edition DVD. Now, a film I don't have, but I've seen once, and it was on a VHS, so it was proper vintage back when I was at uni. And that's The Black Cauldron. And I think in one of the very first scenes, there's this character who looks just like Edgar from Aristocats. And I guess that kind of links into the whole recycling of animation, and I guess are they called assets? And I thought that's Edgar, I mean, or at least a descendant. And then you've got all the theories about who's related to who and which films are linked by what. Various things have been debunked over the years. Obviously there was the recent Tarzan and Frozen connection that now doesn't seem to make sense because of Frozen 2. Anyway, Aristocats. Again, the score, the music. I'm a musician, so I focus on things like this. It's a great 1960s kind of jazzy style. A lot of cool brass and hi-hat stuff during the stealthy sections. And you've got some classic voice actors in this as well. The one thing I did notice about this one of the children cats, Marie, the white cat down at the bottom, her accent changes a couple of times during the film, and I think it happens relatively soon after the start. I think the actor is American doing a British accent, but then I think she just reverts back to American, or the other way around. I think it's quite funny. And it's interesting in other Disney films how they reference their own films. So there's a snippet of Everybody Wants to Be a Cat at the very end of it in the live action 101 Dalmatians, I believe.